Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, could we be nearing a change in the starting lineup for Grant McCasland and the Red Raiders?
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you as we sit here on a game day. Red Raiders back on the floor from Cincinnati, Ohio, as it'll be the Red Raiders and Bearcats. Tech trying to keep their winning ways going on the road in conference play. So far, 3 wins in as many tries. Bullet point number 1, Cincinnati chili is disgusting. We get that out of the way and we move on to other things because I know we're all in agreement. Chris, last time around, Cincinnati comes to Lubbock, gives you a loss last season. Not everything obviously remains the same, especially in this era as we talk rosters and all the changes with those every offseason. But what do you remember about that one last time in Lubbock?
Well, this one was one of those. It was kind of like, whoa, you just lost to Cincinnati, and you were trying to. I mean, you were pretty good at the time. I think this was in early February, so it was a little bit later on in the conference schedule than this actual game would be. But you lost, I think 75-72 was the final, and you were trying to figure out what you were, what Cincinnati was. You were largely healthy at the time, and I just remember how like long they were and athletic, and I'll tell you, because a lot of this same nucleus is back, and Cincinnati would go on to kind of be on the bubble the remainder of the year, and they just couldn't quite sustain it, and they ended up not making the NCAA tournament. I think they were NIT. I think I'm right there, but the guy that I really had in the back of my mind in that game, and he's who I fear the most tonight, because I just thought, golly, man, can we go out in the hallway and work a deal, and he could just stay here and play for us? But his name was Aziz Bandango, and he doesn't have crazy numbers, and he didn't have crazy numbers last year. But against you, he was I think he had 10 points, 10 boards, but it was what he did on the defensive end that he just affected every shot. It made everything very difficult, and he was just long and athletic. And I was just like, God, this guy feels like he's everywhere. And because even when it's not showing up, he's affecting everything. And he's gone on to be kind of that same guy for Cincinnati this year. He's averaging 8 or 9 boards a game, just about 4 or 5 points. I think he's got 30 blocks on the year, so about 2.5. But it's how many shots does he discourage from being taken? How many shots does he alter? And then I think about our man JT Toppin. Okay, with this dude, it's okay, when I turn around and throw that hook up, I gotta throw it up a little bit higher than normal, or put a little more loft on it. And then do you overthink it? And, there's all that dynamic. But that's what I remember from Cincinnati. And they've had a tough stretch to the start of the season, but they also had one of the best non-conference slates of anybody in the league, and they were ranked as high as they were in the top 15 just a month ago.
Man, things change quickly, don't they?
Yes, they do. In this league, they sure do.
Game to game, there's no telling what you might get, and of course, whenever you hit the road, things can always be a little more unpredictable. But so far, the Red Raiders have been rock solid away from Lubbock, and when you think about some of the competition that they face, Chris, it's not going to be some necessarily, at least expectedly, at the top of the Big 12 standings when it's all said and done. But going on the road and getting a win anywhere has got to be respected. And I'm curious to find out what the vibe is like in Cincinnati. Have you ever seen a Bearcat basketball game in Cincinnati?
I've never been to Cincinnati, period. Shout out to Joe Burrow. That's all I really think about is the Bengals and all that. But you're about to get a double dose because you'll be there. Obviously, we're there tonight, and then I think you'll be back in the fall. I think I'm right there with football. So it's am I right there, Calvin? Is that my
I think
statement?
so, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you get the double dip of a lot of lengthy travel with no, okay, no, I guess not.
Are we off?
Yeah, I think you're okay. That was about to say that sounded wrong when I said it. I think it's like the following year because you go to Morgantown this year, which is essentially the same thing. So yeah, I was like, they're not going to send you to Morgantown and Cincinnati in the same year, but Nippert Stadium holds about 30 or 40,000. But I don't really know what to expect from a basketball standpoint. This is a pretty proud program. I just remember. Kenyon Martin, that was kind of the, Bob Huggins and Nick Van Exel and all that stuff. I went to the Final Four, and I guess it was like with my dad in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I want to say it was like 1991 maybe, 92 maybe, somewhere in that time frame. We can go look it up. It'd be easy. But Cincinnati made it. I think Nick the Quick, as I used to call him, Nick Van Exel was a part of that Cincinnati team. I think Huggins was the coach. I think I'm right there. And anyway, watch them at the Metrodome, which now doesn't exist anymore. And lo and behold, I never would think that like years later I'd be broadcasting a Texas Tech game in the state of or in Minneapolis, my damn self, in a different football stadium. So full circle there. But Cincinnati's they're a pretty good team, and this is I've never been up there. Don't really know what to expect. I think temperatures outside are about 14 degrees, so that's awesome. But yeah, these dudes are only averaging like 59 points a game. Okay, in Big 12 play. Now they lost the first 4 conference games. They start out 0-4. The only bad one on paper probably. Although I don't know if you consider any road loss like bad, but you'll know what I'm saying when I say it. But they lost at Kansas State, opened up the conference slate, on New Year's Eve. Now that looks like a bad loss, I guess, with all the struggles that Kansas State has had. But the other ones were they lost to Arizona, they lost to Kansas, they lost to Baylor. There's no shame in that, like at all. Those are all, I don't know, quality losses, if you will. And then they've beaten Colorado and Arizona State. Don't know if they've really beaten anybody good yet, but this one gives them a chance to get back and win their 3rd in a row, and then all of a sudden start feeling good about life again and kind of get maybe more on the bubble or off of it. So this one makes me really nervous, but this one will be an absolute grind. If you think you're going to see a easy on the eyes game tonight, I just think you're sadly mistaken. This will on purpose be very much a rock fight times 2. It may be even uglier than the Kansas State or Arizona game at times. That's what I'm anticipating because that's what Cincinnati's style is. They don't share it. They're all big dudes and they're clunky and they just like clog everything up, and then nothing comes easy against these guys when you got a 7-footer, trying to protect the rim who's very athletic in Bandango. So that's what you're dealing with tonight, and yes, as we all know, chili doesn't belong on spaghetti. I don't care how much cheese you put on top of it, but hey, man, to each his own.
I don't think the cheese makes the situation better myself. I do. Well, I guess I'm telling myself as a Tech fan, hearing you say those things, that I'm kind of glad Tech in some of these previous grinded out kind of games, they've found a way to be successful. So maybe if it has to be that way, it won't be something that totally takes them out of their element,
True.
So to speak. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on maybe what you expect to see continue to progress from a minutes played standpoint for some of these guys. We touched on this a little bit on the previous episode, but Christian Anderson, a guy that's getting a lot of run and big moments too, not just from a minutes total standpoint, but also when those minutes are coming. And that's kind of been a consistent thing, I guess, we've seen for a large portion of the season. You saw Kerwin Walton still in the starting lineup, but only plays 5 minutes. Doesn't, I don't think, register a single number otherwise on Saturday against Arizona. We've also talked about some different guys, guys like Kevin Overton, among some others, and kind of wondered in some previous episodes whether you would see, some adjustment with the starting lineup, a trigger pulled. But I tell you what, Chris, I'm wondering after a game played where you have a guy coming off the bench playing 34 minutes and one of your starters playing only 5, if we're getting close to seeing some adjustment there, or is that type of approach maybe something we'll still see? What do you make of what we got going on right now as we get further into the Big 12 schedule?
Pretty interesting, isn't it? Yeah, all of it. I've been asked, hey, dude, why is Kerwin starting? Like what, like asking kind of about this. Like you asked it a lot nicer and introduced the subject than some of the people that I've dealt with. Like what are we doing?
Right.
He did start the second half, which was okay. Talking about Christian Anderson. Like, okay. I think part 2 of what we're getting into here, and this has been over the last couple of weeks, really since that UCF game.
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app giving you everything you need for live betting, same-game parlays, and a whole lot more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com, and make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Is that Grant was hardest on himself because he admitted, I'm letting guys play through mistakes maybe too long on the defensive end of the floor. I'm letting them play through it and just, maybe getting frustrated with them, but I'm leaving them out there. That has since stopped. He has pointed the finger at himself and like, nope, you're coming out. Whether it's a scouting report mistake or you just get beat off the dribble or you don't dive on the floor, whatever it is, it's like if there's a perceived, mistake, I think pretty much all the time now it's like, come on out, let's make the sub, and it's just quick trigger. And before it was, he just wasn't operating this way. Well, I think Kerwin he's always struggled to rebound, but I think he has started to, really, really struggle defensively, and that's what is limiting his minutes. And I think as you're seeing Christian Anderson play more, you get caught up into a lot of the shot making, and I do too, and understandably so, because I think you've said this, his moments seem to be louder than others. Like when he makes the shot, when he hits a three, when he finishes in transition, it just seems like the timing of it's a bit more impactful or important than when other guys are doing it, or that's just maybe the way it's worked out. I don't know. But it's really what he's doing on the defensive end that's allowed him to play more minutes. And he's not been perfect, and he needs to weigh more, and he needs to get stronger. But he's definitely not making the mistakes with the scouting report like others are, or he's not getting just flat out beat. And again, there's trouble around the corner. He's a freshman, and he's clearly on the scouting report, and there's gonna be some people that are able to take advantage or pick on him. But that's why he's playing more. And to answer the question on why don't you see a different starter? Well, here's, I think, the dilemma that Grant's got right now. You are essentially, because Kevin Overton has struggled a bit too since conference play started. I mean, he's not just lighting it up. His minutes have dropped, the scoring has dropped, the rebounds have dropped. But Kevin can still help you defensively. He can still rebound a bit. And I think there's still some things that you can still lean on there. What we have noticed, the minutes have dropped, but he's really just not been able to help you scoring the ball much. And that's a bit of a concern. Although it's still there. There's still something there, and you're going to get it at some point. But how much are you willing to shrink your bench here? Like, are you willing to go, okay, let's start Christian Anderson, and let's not play really Kerwin at all? You really willing to go 7 players? Keep in mind, I think that Grant is okay. You've got D5 with this ankle or foot issue that he's now dealt with this past week. separate deals. You've dealt with a JT who had an ankle/flu problem. I mean, how much are you really willing to shrink it? And that's kind of, because it's not, EY or Leon Horner or Jack Francis or, Mariala Kuntak, who can't play yet, but they're not in a position to really add to the Jazz Henderson's hurt still. So that's kind of the rub here. If Kerwin can still give you 5 to 10 minutes, I think you're still willing to take it. But God, you would love for Kerwin to kind of get right or give you something, because it just helps everything out. But that's I think the dilemma. But man, CA is playing 28 minutes a game. It's hard to ask much more than that. So it's not like it's semantics, really. He's still playing minutes and finishing the game. He's just not necessarily starting it. But yeah, his role is increasing. It is. And you're watching this young man flourish for sure.
And we're all wanting to see it. We're all wanting to see it increase more, I think, because when he's on the floor, it seems like good things are happening. And I do think as fans, sometimes we get a little too bogged down in maybe a starter or non-starter. And there's also something to be said about kind of the flow that Anderson is in, or the game brings to him whenever he is not in the starting lineup. So a lot of these things can be tricky or risky to kind of tinker with. So I don't know. Interesting situation to see play out, though. And I wouldn't mind Kerwin Walton just returning to the category of impact player. He's really setting up a strange kind of Red Raider timeline if this season continues the way it is, because 2 years ago, non-impact, year ago, impact. This year, we're back into the Daria zone where it's just non-impact, and I can't really figure out why.
I think part of it is because he can't do the things well that you are needing right now, and I think that that part has impacted his ability to score. Okay, because he just has a hard time defensively, and then has a hard time rebounding. And when you can't do those things, you can't get enough minutes to get yourself out of a slump. Because last year, you let him play through some of these things, or he was scoring at a high rate because he was playing so many minutes, but that's just the way your team was built. It's a bit different. And Christian, I think, has a lot, because you talk about what you'd love to see increase and all that. And I'll tell you what's going to increase is Christian Anderson's NIL deal. That's what's going to increase.
Good
I'm just telling you, or his rev share number, or whatever we're talking, it's like he's doing this as a pup, and man, if how much more, so that's what. But you're right. I hate it for Kerwin, because this is, you don't want to be playing your best, or you want to be playing your best as you finish it up, like your senior year and your last go ahead. I mean, it's just but man, it's just not.
And we can sure use it.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. And I feel like you're going to need to need it at some point too. You're going to need to use it. So we'll see.
We'll see what we get tonight between Tech and Cincinnati. And of course, just before we get out of here, Chris, I wanted to ask you in general about the league as it stands beginning this week. No conference games, I don't think, last night. So we had just a second to breathe and kind of look at the standings before they change once again. But do you think do you see any categories kind of becoming clearer, or a hierarchy, tiers, whatever way you want to describe it, sort of becoming clearer as we've gotten here? Is it a little too early? And where do you think Texas Tech has fallen in all of this?
Well, it's pretty evident to me that I think there's, I saw Arizona up close. I do think they're probably closer to the top end of this thing than they are middle of the pack, even though they're a game ahead of you in the standings. But I feel like after seeing Iowa State up close, and even though they're just coming off of a loss, I watched enough of Houston. I feel like your league champ is going to come from either.
First, today's episode brought to you by Prize Picks. Testing your skills on Prize Picks this football season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and the best way to spice up any game, anytime. You think you got what it takes to win up to 100 times your money? All you got to do is select 2 to 6 players, pick more or less on their projected stats, place your entry, and boom, you're ready to roll. Prize Picks is not only the best way to get action on sports in most states, including Texas, but Prize Picks also puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When the picks hit, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. With easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and a giant selection of players, projections, and stat categories, it's no surprise that Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So get in on the fun and the winning and download the Prize Picks app today and use our code LOCKEDONCollege, and you're going to get $50 instantly when you play only $5. Again, that's our code LOCKEDONCollege on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you just play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. With Prize Picks, run your game.
I feel like your league champ is going to come from either Iowa State or Houston. And you are in a position, you've got an outside shot at it there, but like it's going to require you to beat Houston maybe twice. don't know if and you've got to go to Tucson too, because you don't get another crack at Iowa State. That's it. And I just don't know if I see Houston or Iowa State losing just a ton of games. And here there's 14 left for everybody. Iowa State's got the 1 loss. Houston's got 0, and you've got 2, including one a loss against the team among that group. So there's a tiebreaker problem there. But there's clearly a tier there. But I think you're in this tier with kind of Kansas and Arizona, and I think Baylor and you, and I think there's kind of this, But I don't want to rule out that you'll know on a game like tonight how seriously you can take your chances in like the conference race. Because I think we said this, like Ken Palm has you projected out to go 13-7 in the remainder of your conference race. Again, call me soft, SAWFT, that's fine. I'd take that and run right now, because I think that guarantees you an NCAA tournament bid, probably a pretty good seed, and there's no takebacks. But it's going to require you to go to win 15 or 16 of these Big 12 games, and I just don't know if you're there. Because, again, you've got Houston twice. You go to Tucson late on a Saturday night, and you've got some landmines, which are tricky. Late at night in Tempe against Arizona State, and then cold Cincinnati. You've got West Virginia coming to Lubbock. You've got Baylor coming to Lubbock and all those things. And so there's just, some of these games are hard, and you just don't want to. But that you're starting to kind of see it start to get a feel. And West Virginia, I didn't mention them enough. They just knocked off Iowa State. They are a problem, and I'm glad you get them in Lubbock. Although when you play them, it's like noon on a Saturday, and I'm afraid that your fans won't may not be up for that one, or that's just a sneaky one because it's earlier on a Saturday. But they are a handful, and in year one from Coach DeVries, that's really the one of the best stories in the Big 12 so far to this point, and doing it without his kid, which is arguably their best player on paper. But that's why it's like you don't really have any wins over anybody other than Arizona as we're having this conversation that's really involved in the top half of the league race. So just keep that in mind.
And you've got some of those opportunities coming up.
You do.
Very soon, just around the corner. So had a couple of those already. Let one slip by you, no T on your home floor, but you'll have other chances. That's the nature of the Big 12 Conference. All right, looking forward to this one from Cincinnati, Chris, and appreciate your time as always as we set the table for it, and we will reconvene on the other side to process it all for better or worse. So enjoy the ball game, man. Travel safe, and we'll see you for the next one.
Get Aziz Bandango in foul trouble. Get him on the bench. I like your chances. And if not, you better shoot it really well. If you shoot it really well tonight, Captain Obvious here, but I like your chances. But that may be what it requires. So we'll see what we get. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow morning about what it looks like or what it looked like. And stay warm wherever you are. And we love you all. Guns up.
That's right. And get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks for being out there. Thanks to the Everydayers and the Matador Mob Insiders. Hit the show notes. Find your link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one texting straight to your phone. Appreciate your time as always. For Chris, I'm Casey, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.